Hello and welcome to Rathod's IAS. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 2nd September 2022. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see today's quote. So today's quote, it is about equality. Already you know that. So there are a number of articles that are coming in our Hindu newspaper regarding this equality. So especially I think 2 days ago we discussed about gender parity in Japan. Okay, there is increasing of gender inequality in Japan. So there we studied about women participation in labor. There we studied about the women participation just seen in the lower level of job but not in the administrative offices. And there is very low participation of women in even in the politics. And women, they will be doing just care work in Japan. And at that time we also discussed about what is this womenomics, which mainly came up by Shinzo Abe. So I think you are getting something at least 10% now if I am telling about all this, right? So please go back and please do revision. That will be helpful for 100% retrieval of those topics that we already discussed in our earlier lectures. So now why I am discussing about this quote regarding this equality once again. So there is one more editorial which appeared in our today's Hindu which talks about this gender inequality. So there is no choice for me. I have to discuss this quote. So this quote which is talking about gender equality. It says that all men are created equal. It is only men themselves who place themselves above equality. Okay. So all men, they are created equal. But if you are comparing with the women and men, so they are placed above the equality. And if you are talking about our institutions, so our institutions, they are reflective of our society. So because of this, yes, we are having a patriarchal society. So because of this patriarchal society, we can see there is a less women labor force which is contributing to our economy. So what are the institutions that we have? They are reflective of our society. So this is the one word you have to remember. Okay, such that will be very useful whenever you are giving your interview also. Okay, so this is the quote, and now let us try to see first topic. So yes, this topic, it is about gender inequality. So here I want to give you one homework. So don't take it as homework but take it as an assignment. So try to search some facts regarding women's participation in the labor force, especially in India, and women's contribution to our economy, and you have to see in which fields women are coming forward. Here you can also think about permanent commission for women in army, and you have to remember about, even you have to make a note about women participation politics in India and what is about this reservation of women's bill in Lok Sabha, and you have to think about even like sexual harassment cases and what is the violence against women. So what is about this patriarchal society, whether it is still relevant or not, and you have to know about so what are the issues which are facing by the women to come forward. And even if you are talking about higher education, so here women participation in higher education. So how many women they are enrolling for their post graduation, PhD, etc. Okay, and finally you have to know about what are the steps taken by our government for women empowerment. So in these dimensions, yes, you have to think. So it is an assignment for you students, and this will be absolutely helpful for your GS and GS paper 2 and as well as even in your essay. So please don't neglect this. So try to do this work. So now let us try to see this topic, and this topic is exclusively important from your GS paper 2 from our society point of view. And from this topic you can expect mains question as well as your interview based questions. So if you see, so the thing which is given in this article, they are about especially some examples, some case studies. But we know that human brain is like a very complex and we can't remember much things. Okay, it is our capacity, because especially if you learn things now today and if you're not revising after 1 week or 1 month, yes, we will forget everything. So because of that, what are the thing which is important from our UPSC point of view, we are going to discuss that, because we can't remember those all case studies, right, and as well as those names, and they are not much relevant from our UPSC point of view as well. So we are talking about one report which says that This report is McKinley report. So this report says that the power of parity if gender gap is filled by 2025. So what are the gender gap that is present in India? So first of all, let me ask you one question. So what is the rank of India in this gender gap index 2021? So let me know the answer in the comment box. So we're talking about this report which talks about this gender parity. So whenever this gender inequality which is decreased by 2025 in India, then our GDP, that is India's GDP, it is going to be increased by 60%. Okay, especially we can see this gender inequality in the workplace, in the terms of legal protection, in the terms of political voice in India. So this is according to this McKinsey report. So if you're talking about economic development which enables the countries to close gender gaps, especially, yes, whenever we need to decrease this gender gap, whenever we are focusing to decrease this gender gap, especially what are those indicators? So where we can see whether this gender gap is present or not. First and the foremost here is education level. So we have to see whether the same number of girls and boys are enrolling or not in this gross enrollment ratio. Apart from that, we need to see whether women, they are enrolling in this higher education or not. You have to see about dropouts of girls, especially in the schools, etc. And this one here is, we have to think about even financial and digital inclusion, whether they are also included in this financial inclusion or not, whether they are having bank accounts or not, whether they are using this digital payment methods or not. And this one here is legal protection. So if there are any laws, these laws are properly implemented or not. So let me know which are the laws which are present in India which are focusing on empowerment of women and as well as safety of women. And this one here is unpaid care work. So actually women, they are restricted to homes, and in that home they have to do care work for their children, for elderly people, etc. So in these areas, yes, if you are having a detailed study, then they will be acting as indicators to know gender inequality is present or not. And if you're talking about some more important data released by International Labour Organization and as well as UNICEF, they says that. So according to this International Labour Organization, it says that in India, we are having worst level of gender wage disparity. So if women, they are going for the work and the male, they are going for the work. So women will be giving like 300 rupees per day, but male, they will be getting 500 to 600 rupees per day. Yes, this is very much evident in India. And this one here is only 33% of India's internet users, they are female. So only 33% of women, they are using internet, but not all. So this is also one cause of concern. That means they are digitally excluded. And if you are talking about gender inequality, it is an age-old issue. It is not new enough. From this later Vedic age onwards, we are seeing there is gender inequality. So you can ask, why ma'am, before this later Vedic age, so there used to be no inequality. So I want to give you one example here. So during this early Vedic age, that is during this Rig Veda period, women, they also actively participate in the sabhas and samitis. And they will be also giving their opinions. But here there is discrimination against women that started in this later Vedic period. So here we can say this gender inequality is not age, or it is an age-old issue, it is not a new issue. So because of this, yes, the primary focus is very much needed today. Because now we are in this 21st century. So there are a lot of advancement that we can see in our science and technology. So what is the need of this gender inequality? So why we have to go for discrimination of women? So here this is the one important thing. And if you're talking about this gender inequality, so it is a social and as well as economic factors, they play an important role in this gender inequality. So in this context, so government need to address this issue, and it can come up with equitable and harmonious development of society will sustain. So whenever government which is addressing this issue, then only we can go for sustainable development. And here what is the need? So we have to use technology. For example, Himmat. Himmat is an app which developed by this Delhi government. And we can come up with this type of technology, using of technology throughout the country, especially that will helpful for the safety of women. So we're talking about the safety of women. Yes, for every 3 minutes there is one rape which is happening in India. Okay, there is sexual abuse and domestic violence, and women, they are the victims. So because of these, yes, we can use this technology as we are developing in this science and technology. Yes, we can come up with this type of applications. So that will be ultimately useful for the safety of women. And next one here is we have to focus on even awareness among the youth. And here we have to come up with awareness among the youth regarding this inequality. And especially in the school itself, yes, we have to develop a habit among the school children to respect women. Okay, and we have to come up with the separate chapters regarding this respecting of women, awareness about inequality in the schools itself. And next one here is we can come up with the creation of this she caps. So she caps came up in the city Hyderabad. So here empowerment is possible for women. And next one here is we need to come up with the strict implementation of laws. For example, we have prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. So we have to come up with a strict implementation. So under this sexual harassment at workplace, we have to come up with a committee. And this committee need to resolve these issues regarding the sexual harassment in the offices. But many companies do not have these committees. And next one here is we have to focus on visible policing. We have to go for regular checks at the public places and night patrolling and increasing of women staff and separate women police stations. They have to become up such that we can focus on empowerment of women. And one more important thing that you have to focus here is if you go to this Millennium Development Goals. So in this Millennium Development Goals, third development goal here is women empowerment. Yes, we have to focus on this Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals, etc. And if you are talking about what are the challenges or the roadblocks, first one here is if you are talking about our society. So our society is a patriarchal society, that is a male dominated society. And here male member towards girl education. So especially in our patriarchal society, so here parents they will be thinking that they have to provide good education for the sons but not for the daughters. Because daughters they will be going to other homes, because after getting married they will be going into their in-laws house. So what is the necessary of giving proper education for the girl child? So it is a mindset that we can see, and we have to change the mindset of our society. And next one here is poverty and lack of sanitation facilities. It is also an important reason. So because of there is no proper toilets in the schools, so here girl child after they entering into this reproductive age, so there is increasing of dropouts. Yes, we need to ensure proper sanitation services are provided in the schools. And insecurity and lack of school. So especially if there is some area, if there is a small rural hamlet is there, so in that hamlet whenever there is no proper school services, then if they have to travel 2 to 3 kilometers away from their place, means yes, the people they are not interested to send their girl child to the school because of insecurity, because of lack of security. And there is lack of legal mechanism and grievance redressal mechanism. Okay, so these are some important roadblocks or challenges that we can see regarding this women empowerment or gender equality. And what can be the measures taken? The first one here is yes, we need to come up with awareness among the society. And this one here is economic empowerment of women is very important. And this one here is we have to provide legal security, and we need to also provide proper institutional mechanism for grievance redressal mechanism. And even we can take help of some religious leaders and as well as private sector, NGOs which are working in that area, okay, to decrease inequality, so that we will be having an attitudinal change in the people. Okay, so this is about this topic in detail. And now let's try to see next topic. So actually this topic it is about our Indian economy. So before going into this topic, I want to give you some idea regarding so what are the points that are involved here. So why it is in news? Yes, one important dream of every country will be 2-digit growth. Will you agree with me or not? So every country's dream will be like to achieve 2-digit growth. And if you see India, so recently National Statistical Office which came with a projection of 13.5% of growth, that is GDP, from year earlier in the April-June end. Yes, we achieved this 13.5% of growth. Are you not believing with me? So this is the facts which is given by this NSO, National Statistical Office. But So why we achieved this two-digit growth? The two important reasons are, the first one here is base effect. Yes, where we are comparing with. So we are comparing with this 2020, 2021. So in that year, we had this COVID-19 pandemic and there was very slow growth, and we already even went into the recession in the first 2 quarters, and many of our industries, manufacturing units, companies, they had been shut down completely. And if you are comparing this year growth with the last year, then what will be happen? Yes, ultimately there will be the high growth, and now we are seeing two-digit growth. But when we are comparing with the SBI projected that, so we are going to have 14% or 14 to 15% of growth, and RBI said that yes, we are going to have 16.2% of growth. But here, if you are comparing with the projections of this SBI and as well as this Reserve Bank of India, and what are the growth that projected by this NSO, which is very much low. So this is one important cause of concern. So here, if you are talking about and comparing with the other countries, for example, China, it has 0.4% of growth, and if you are talking about USA, it is having negative growth, that is minus 1.6% of growth. But when you are comparing with the other countries, yes, India is doing good. India is doing good. But I want to reveal one more thing. So in the next 3 or 4 months, so it is a very tough time for India to maintain the growth. And what might be the reasons? First one here is Russia-Ukraine issue. Russia-Ukraine war has not ended, and there might be some impact of this Russia-Ukraine issue on Indian economy. And if you go through this USA, in this USA, recently Federal Bank of USA took decision that they are going to increase interest rates because there is inflation that is seen in USA. Because of increasing of interest rates in USA, that will be having negative impact in India. And one more thing here is there is increasing of price of crude oil. So because of this, it will be having some impact on our forex reserves. Okay, so these are some things that we have to think about, and we have to think about how we are going to sustain for the next 3 to 4 months. And one more thing here is inflation is very high in India, and rural inflation is high, and as well as urban inflation is very high, and we are facing with this issue called as unemployment, right? So these are some important things that you have to remember. And even one more thing here is rupee depreciation. Yes, we will also add this point here, rupee depreciation. So let me know, can we add any more things here? So please let me know your suggestions in the comment box. So if you come back and if you see this article, yes, the context says that NSO, National Statistical Office, came up with the projection of our growth in India. So it said that we are going to have this 13.5% of growth, and it is far less compared to the projection of SBI and as well as RBI. So if you are talking about what are the issues, what are the roadblocks, first one here is Russia-Ukraine war. So because of this Russia-Ukraine war, that led to decreasing of growth. And next, why? Because especially palladium, especially some important materials that we are going to get from this Russia and Ukraine, especially important for the making of the chips and semiconductors, etc., that had been stalled. And next one here is, if you're talking about output of 8 broad sectors. Okay, so in this 8 broad sectors also we are seeing there is a less growth. And if you're talking about public administration, defense and other services, they are growing at 26.3%, and other sectors they have contractions. Only in this public administration, defense and other services, yes, it is growing. But if you're talking about other sectors, there is a contraction that is seen. And only 2 service sectors, for example, electricity and gas, water and other utility services, so there is expansion. But in other sectors, there is a contraction that is seen. And even if you're talking about different sectors of our economy, yes, we have primary sector, that is agriculture, secondary sector manufacturing, and tertiary sector services. So in all these services, India's economy, which is mainly based on this agriculture, yes, we can say we are based on our primary sector, and this agriculture which is providing lot of employment than compared to that of other sectors, right? So here what happened, there is a contraction that is seen in agriculture, because if you see this year monsoon rain, So it is not equally distributed. So some areas we got floods, in some areas we are getting droughts. So because of this, yes, there is some negative impact on this agriculture production as well. Okay, and this is the thing which mainly said, okay, so because of this erratic scatter pattern of this monsoon in this year, so in some areas they have flooding, and because of this flooding which mainly led to loss of this standing crops of paddy and as well as pulses in some areas, and in some areas they are moisture deficient, for example northern and as well as eastern India. Okay, so because of this it will be also having some impact on this agriculture production. So what is the need? The need here is RBI, that is Central Bank of India, need to come up with policies, and it have to decrease this inflation in our economy. And here we need to come up with the policies that will lead to increasing of investment and as well as consumption in our economy. So this is about this topic in detail. And now let us try to see next topic. So this topic already we discussed, I think, day before yesterday, and I give you the brief idea regarding crimes in India. So this article which is talking about the detailed analysis of this crimes, violent crimes in India. Especially you can talk about suicides, you can talk about crypto issues, or you can talk about cyber security issues, you can talk about domestic violence, sexual harassment, rapes, etc. So those are the some important things that are given in this article. So now let us try to see this topic in detail. So we are comparing with the data of 2020. So in this 2021 level, okay, in 2021 the level of violence, that is a violent crimes in India that had been increased, and we reached this pre-pandemic levels. So this is the conclusion or gist of this report. So why there is decreasing of this violence in this 2020? Yes, many a times there is no one who is going to office still now also. So everyone is working from home. Because of this, there is decreasing of harassment in these offices or places at the work, that is sexual harassment at the workplaces that decreased. And on another side, we can see whenever these people are not going to office, means whenever they are staying in home, means that will lead to increasing of domestic violence. So it is one consequence. And even children did not have proper school facilities because of abrupt imposition of lockdown. So here the cases of sexual harassment on these children had been decreased, but on another side we can see there is increasing of sexual harassment of the children at the home. Okay, so overall this report says that the registration of violent crimes such as rape, kidnapping, atrocities against children, robberies, murders, which had been increased in this 2021 levels. So this is the data which released by National Crimes Record Bureau. So why there was an increase in the violent crimes in 2021? So overall rate, the decrease from 487.8 to 445.9 in 2021. Okay, so this is about this topic. And if we are talking about domestic violence, we can see cruelty by husband or his relatives, which continued like 31.8% of crimes against women. And 2020 it was like 30.2%. And 2019 it was 30.9%. So if I compare with this 2019 and 2021, there is increasing of this domestic violence cases. And what happened? Violent crime which had been increased. Okay, that is about 75.8% in 2020, and 2021 it is 72.3%. Okay, so this is about this topic, and here this article says that yes, there is some severity that is seen in this pandemic, and it has some indirect consequences on the people. Okay, so India it is also registering the highest excess deaths during this pandemic. So because of this Delta variant, which is according to this WHO, that is World Health Organization, and even 5.9% of jump of cases that are mainly seen in this cyber crimes. Okay, because there is increasing of use of mobile phones, increased use of digital transactions. Okay, so because of this, there is increasing of the cyber crimes also seen, and this cyber crimes which is mainly seen in this elderly people. Okay, so this is about this topic. So what is the need? The need here is we need to educate the people about the risk of the cyber activities, and we need to ensure that there is a proper law enforcement in our country. Okay, so this is about this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. So this topic it is about GST revenue. Okay, GST revenue in the month of August. So this article says that from the last 6 months onwards, there is good amount of this GST revenue collection. That is about rupees 1.4 lakh crore. So here you have to know about what is this GST and what are the different types of GST and what is this GST council. So these are some important areas that you have to remember, and this topic is important from your economy point of view, which comes under your GS paper 3. If you're talking about context, it says that India's gross revenues from this GST, goods and service tax, and they collected about 1,43,612 crores in the month of August. And if you are comparing with this amount with the last year August month, it is like 28% higher, which is mainly collected now in this year. And if you are comparing with the last month also we have about around 1.4 lakh crore of GST collections. And if you see some details, it says that, so this is a 6th successive month when GST revenues had been over rupees 1.4 lakh crore mark. So this is the thing which mainly said by Finance Ministry. Okay, so we are having a continuous high buoyancy in this tax collections. So what is this GST? So GST is nothing but goods and service tax. It is indirect tax. So this is one important fact. It is not a direct tax, it is indirect tax. That is nothing but it should be paid by everyone, irrespective of their income. So here GST, goods and service tax, it is indirect tax which imposed on supply of goods and services, and it is a destination based tax. So earlier whatever the tax we have, they are consumption, they are like manufacturing based tax. So where they are manufactured, they had to pay the tax there. But here wherever we are buying, so at that area we are going to pay this tax. That is a destination based tax. And this one here is, so this GST which introduced in India through this 101 Constitutional Amendment Act of 2016. And if we are talking about different components, we have 3 components. First one is central GST, second one is state GST, and third one is integrated GST. So integrated GST means whenever any goods which are moving between the 2 states, so in that area, so there will be integrated GST will be imposed. And if you are talking about what is this GST council, so here GST council, that is goods and service tax council, actually it is a constitutional body but not a statutory body. And here article 279A of Indian Constitution which talks about this GST. And what is the function of this GST council? It will be giving some recommendations to union and as well as state governments. Okay, and here this GST council, it is a joint forum of central and as well as states. So is the chairperson our Union Finance Minister. So now let us move on to next topic. So this topic, it is about IMF help to Sri Lanka. Yes, you have to know about what is the economic condition of Sri Lanka and what are the reasons for this economic crisis of Sri Lanka. So that we are going to focus. We are not going to focus about so how much amount it is going to be extended by this IMF. So that is not at all important. So this article is important from your international relations which comes under your GS paper 2. And you have to see the location of Sri Lanka, where it is exactly located. Already I think in yesterday's lecture I showed you the map of Sri Lanka. So if you see context here, International Monetary Fund, I can say that is in short IMF. IMF reached a staff level agreement with the crisis hit Sri Lanka, and it said that they are going to give a loan package of $2.9 billion. So what are the reasons? The first one, if you see in Sri Lanka, so there was civil war. For example, 26-year-long civil war in 2019. Its post-war GDP growth was reasonably highest in 8 to 9% per annum till 2012. And later on, what happened from 2013 onwards, the GDP of this Sri Lanka which had been halved. So this is a civil war between these Tamilians and as well as Sinhalese community. And recently in 2019, Easter bomb blast happened. So because of this, what happened? The number of tourists who are going to the Sri Lanka which had been decreased. So actually the Sri Lanka economy which is depend upon this tourism, but because of this Easter bomb blast or bomb attack, that led to decreasing of this tourism. And next one here is, newly led government of this Gotabaya Rajapaksa in 2019, he imposed or he promised lower tax rate. And next one here is the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 made bad situation. For example, the exports of tea, exports of rubber, spices and garments, they had been suffered from the Sri Lanka, and tourism arrivals that had been decreased, and that led to decreasing of revenue for Sri Lanka. And in 2021 they came up with new reform in this agriculture. They said that we are going for only organic fertilizers, but we are not going to use any chemical fertilizer. So because of this, that led to decreasing of agriculture produce. And even recently, Sri Lankan president declared economic emergency to curtail the rising price of the food and as well as depreciating currency. And there is also some problem like rapid depleting of these forex reserves. So whenever they are getting these imports from the other countries, yes, that will lead to depletion of this forex reserves. And if you're talking about Sri Lanka, they also borrowed heavy money from the BC. So we're talking about infrastructure projects. For example, Hambantota port. So it can't repay these loans to this China. So because of this, Sri Lanka, which mainly came up with leasing of this Hambantota port to this China. Okay. So this is about this topic in detail. I hope it is very much clear. And now let us try to see this topic. So this topic is important from your environment and ecology. So this topic which is talking about single-use plastics. And this article is important from both your prelims and as well as mains point of view. So if you see context, it says that recently Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change notified Plastic Waste Management Amendment Rules 2021. Okay. So here recently our Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change came up with this Plastic Waste Management Amendment Rules 2021. So here why this or the rules came up by this ministry? Because they want to come up with decreasing of this plastic pollution, and here government want to come up with the steps to curb littered and as well as unmanaged plastic waste pollution. Okay, so since July 1st 2022 India banned manufacture, import, stocking, distribution, sales and as well as use of the single use plastics. So from July 1st itself here government came up with banning of the single use plastic regarding this manufacturing, import, stocking, distribution, sales, etc. here. So we're talking about what exactly this single use plastic means. So single use plastic or disposable plastics, they are used only once before they are throwing away or recycled. And these items, they include, for example, plastic bags, straws, coffee stirrers, sodas and as well as water bottles, etc. Food packaging items, etc. So let us try to understand how the single use plastics, they are harmful for our environment. So first and the foremost one here is recent data which released by this WWF, that is World Wildlife Fund. So it says that plastic is harmful to our environment because they are non-biodegradable. It will be taking some years of time to disintegrate. But the single-use plastic, their words never being break down completely. So if we're talking about some biodegradable things, like if you are using alternatives like jute bags, etc. So they will be biodegradable. But these single-use plastics, they are not biodegradable. Okay, and that will lead to formation of this microplastics. So already you know that what will happen whenever this microplastic enters into our environment. That will lead to pollution of our environment. And even it will take some thousands of years for the plastic to disintegrate or decompose. And this one here is, so whenever the disintegration of this plastic is happening, so what are the noxious chemicals are there? So they will be transmitted into animal tissue and finally that will enter into human food chain. So next one here is birds. They are mostly confusing. Okay, mostly confusing regarding the shreds of plastic bags of food, and finally they are eating this toxic debris of this plastic. And even fish, they consume thousands of tons of plastic in a year. Okay, so because of this, that is transferring to the food chain. Okay, so this is about this topic. And now let us see the mains question. So mains practice question here is, gender inequality is not just a gender issue that affects women, but it is also a socio-economic issue that adversely affects development. So in this regard, critically examine how can government address this gender inequality issue and why this issue needs an urgent action. So try to go to this question once and try to write answer for this question. And the word limit is just 200 words, and you have to take the time like 12 to 13 minutes. So now let me make a small announcement. We in Rathod's IS, we came up with this daily mains answer writing course. And the new batch is going to be start from this September 5th. So try to join this course, and this course is excellent, and here we are covering your GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4, and we are going to give you 52 weeks of schedule with the detailed micro listing of topics, and from that syllabus daily one question will be given. On Sunday you will be having case study or essay, okay, and there will be evaluation of your answer, and we provide you model answer, and also there will be live classes on every Sunday. We are going to discuss so what you have to write in that so and so question, like how to approach the question and how to improve your presentation. So how can you grab one more mark extra from examiner. So these are some important things that are the key highlights of this course, and the cost of this course here is just 8,200 rupees for 1 year. So this is a very affordable and as well as economic. So try to join this course for sure. So if you have any doubts, so call me on this number 8074765513. Okay. So now let us try to see some other articles from other sources. This article, it is about core infrastructure growth. So you have to know about core sectors. So this article is talking about infrastructure growth in India. And this topic is important from our economy point of view, which comes under our GS paper 3. So now let us try to see why it is in news. So if you are talking about context, it says that, so growth in this output of 8 core sectors. So core sectors here is FERNS 3 Cs. Fertilizer, electricity, refineries, natural gas, steel, cement, coal and crude oil. So these are the 8 core infrastructure sectors. So this article says that there is decreasing of growth in these sectors to the straight second month. And this month it is about 4.5% of growth. And if you are talking about IIP, Index of Industrial Production, so this IIP, Index of Industrial Production, it is one of the composite indicator, and it mainly measures about the changes in the volume of production of basket of industrial products, and actually it mainly compiled and published monthly by this NSO, National Statistical Office, which comes under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, that is MOSPI. So it is one of the composite indicator which measures the growth rate of industry. For example, it includes some broad sectors like mining, manufacturing, electricity, etc. And it also includes some use-based sectors, namely basic goods, capital goods, intermediate goods. So which is a base year, that is 2011 to 2012. And if you see this infographic, exactly it shows about what all in this IIP includes. So this IIP, Index of Industrial Production, which includes manufacturing, mining and electricity. So manufacturing, it includes like around 80%, 10% of mining and 10% of electricity. And this manufacturing, it includes industry goods and as well as used based goods. So used based goods includes basic goods, capital goods, intermediate goods, consumer goods. And this consumer goods includes durable and as well as non-durable goods. So this chart will be very important to answer your prelims based questions from this IIP. So what is significance of this IIP? So if we are talking about significance, yes, here government agencies like Ministry of Finance, Reserve Bank of India, they will be using the data from this IIP and they will be coming with the policy changes. And IIP, it is only measure of physical volume of production, and it forms a crucial input for compilation of this gross value added of manufacturing sector in this gross domestic product on quarterly basis. And this IIP, which remains extremely relevant for this calculation of quarterly and as well as advanced GDP estimates. And it's also extensively used by even financial intermediaries, policy analysts, private companies, etc. for analytical purposes. And if you're talking about 8 core sectors, they comprise about 40.3% of weight in this IIP. And here, if you're talking about decreasing order of their weightage, first we have refinery, second electricity, third steel, fourth coal, 5 crude oil, 6 natural gas, 7 cement and 8 fertilizer. And you have to remember this decreasing order for sure. And now let us try to see next topic. So this topic is about anti-radiation pills. So why this anti-radiation pills is in use? Already you know that Russia-Ukraine crisis is going on. So especially in some nuclear plants, especially near this border of this Russia and as well as Ukraine. So there is one nuclear plant, that is Zaporizhzhia. Okay, so in this Zaporizhzhia, so there are some fears of nuclear disaster. Okay, so if you see the context, it says that with the fears of nuclear disaster at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia power plant growing. So because of this, now European Union which decided to supply about 5.5 million anti-radiation pills, and these pills are going to be distributed among the residents in the vicinity. So what is this radiation emergency? So if you are talking about what is this radiation emergency, so whenever there is unplanned or any accidental events that create radionuclear hazards to humans and environment, so this condition is called as radiation emergency. And this situation which mainly involves radiation exposure from radioactive sources, and this require prompt intervention to mitigate the threat. Yes, in that situation, yes, we need to be prepared well before, right? So because of this, yes, we need this anti-radiation pills. So in this anti-radiation pills, they contains potassium iodide tablets, that is Ki. Or anti-radiation pills, they are mainly known to provide some protection in case of radiation exposure. Okay, so how it works? So it will be having this potassium iodide, right? So whenever there is any radiation which happened, okay, so before the radiation or after as soon as this radiation happened, so whenever we are taking this anti-radiation pills, so what happens? So it will be having potassium iodide, right? So it is a non-radioactive iodine, so it will be absorbed by our thyroid gland, so that the thyroid glands will be filled complete, right? So it will be no more, our thyroid glands will no more absorb the other radioactive iodine which is released, so that we can save or we can prevent our thyroids to absorb this radioactive iodine. So whenever our thyroid glands which are absorbing this radioactive iodine, means that will lead to permanent damage. So to prevent this permanent damage to our thyroids, yes, this anti-radiation pills are very useful. So this is how this anti-radiation pills works. So now let us try to see prelims practice questions. The first one here is function of heavy water nuclear reactor. So this question which occurred in this 2021. So that is the slow down of speed of neutrons. So if you have gone through your basic NCERT books, and even if you go through your 10th class or 11th class or 12th class physics books, yes, you will be coming across this fact. And this one here is index of industrial production or index of 8 core industries. Which one of the following has highest weightage? So first one is refinery, but refinery is not this, and the second one here is electricity generation. So because of this, yes, you have to remember this decreasing order also. And now let us try to see vocabulary. Spur. Spur means a thing that prompts to encourage someone. So if you want to encourage someone, you can use this word spur. Spur growth. Next one is disconcerting. Disconcerting means to feel unsettled. And underwhelm. Underwhelm means fail to impress or to make positive impact. Or in simple, we can say disappoint. Sequentially. Sequentially means by forming or following a logical order or sequence. Okay, so this is about vocabulary. And now let us try to see today's Hindu newspaper as usual. So this is our Hindu newspaper PDF. So here the first article, it is about GST revenues cross 1.4 lakh crore mark. Again, I discussed this topic in detail. And here I also discussed about this IMF topic. And if you move on to the city page, there is nothing much important. And you can leave this page number 3 and page number 4. And you can also leave this page number 5. You can leave this 6, leave this 7. And directly you can go to this editorial page. So in this editorial page, I discussed about this article regarding this gender parity or gender inequality, and I gave you homework, so try to do that homework. And this one here, it is regarding this slow improvement. I discussed this topic regarding Indian economy. I discussed this topic regarding violent crimes in India. Okay, and if you move forward here in this data point, you can see unknown source of political funding. So here political funding is one of the important issue that we can see in our polity and elections. So go through this data once. And this text and context, I discussed about the single-use plastic. And if you move forward, here you can see Vostok 2022 begins in Russia with India. China is also participating here, so you have to go through this article once. And if you move forward here, you can see India made HPV vaccine this year. So here India's first indigenously developing vaccine to prevent cervical cancer. So actually cervical cancer is one of the most serious cancer that is seen in women, and it is caused by this human papilloma virus. And if you are having this HPV vaccine, there is a reducing the chance of getting cervical cancer in women. So here we are going to have this HPV vaccine in this year. So this is one of the achievement that we can say. And this one here is United Nations accuses China of this Uyghur right abuse. So here you have to know who are these Uyghurs. So Uyghurs, they are the Muslim community. Okay, they are minority in the Muslims in the Xinjiang province. So you have to go through that once. And here United Nations inspectors arrive at Ukraine nuclear plant amid shelling. So because of the shelling in this region, especially there is a threat of nuclear disaster in this Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. So because of this, United Nations inspecting this plant. And if you move forward here, you can see PMI, Purchasing Manager Index, flags first test manufacturing output since November. You can go to this article. And this one here is India air traffic may grow at 7% till 2040. It is the thing which mainly said by Boeing. So these are some important articles that appear in our today's Hindu newspaper. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. So try to purchase this mains answer writing course. For that you have to visit our website. Or if you have any doubts regarding that course, so please call me on this number 8074765513, and this is also WhatsApp number where you can also text me there. And if you really like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Rathod's IAS Academy channel. So by this I am concluding. Have a nice day. Jai Hind.